Welcome to another episode of the Jersey Oddcast with Joseph F. Berenato, Gabriel J. Donio, and me, Gina Rullo. What's happening, gentlemen?
Well, seems to be quite a bit.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. I think we had the best news came on Sunday a week ago when the Eagles secured their bid into the Super Bowl. I am not the world's biggest football fan, but I do love the birds. Gabe, what's going on with our Eagles?
Well, and what is usually a slow news week that makes the Super Bowl take precedence over everything, that has not happened this week. But there's a lot going on, and certainly worthy of attention. But there is a football game coming up, and it is, in fact, Super Bowl 59. It will be played in New Orleans. And the Philadelphia Eagles, the hometown team, will be there playing against the Chiefs again, who they played 2 seasons ago, and of course are coached by their former head coach Andy Reid. So the current head coach Nick Sirianni will be taking on the former head coach of the Eagles, who's had a tremendous amount of success in Kansas City with the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelsey, and everyone else involved there. There's also a lot of other side stories to this game, but the main thing for Eagles fans is going to be this: can they come back this time and get the job done? So a lot of people feel that that will happen. I think that the Eagles have a great chance in this game. I'm not going to go so far as to pick one or the other, but I will say it's going to be a pretty close contest again, I think. But that's where that Super Bowl is now. I think there's going to be plenty of people from Hammonton heading down there to check out and root on their Eagles. And certainly we'll all be watching from here, enjoying uh, this unbelievable run that the Eagles have had, winding up in Super Bowl, basically 59, and ready to. They're one game away,
Yeah.
one game away from a Lombardi Trophy.
Let's be honest. I mean, they lost to the Patriots the first time they went to the Super Bowl, and then they beat them. So
That
there,
is correct.
that could happen again. I mean, we don't have Jason Kelsey, although I'm sure he'll be there, cheering on the birds and quietly rooting for his brother on the opposite team. And there's always that hype around it. But I think the city is due and ready for a good win. We've seen a lot of energy in town about the Eagles game so far. There's even a gentleman in town with a crazy light show going on. Joe, did you tell me about that?
It's on, I believe it's South Madison, the first block right there. It is an impressive display. A gentleman's name, I believe, is Bill Paulus, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. But he traditionally does Christmas and Halloween displays, and this year he's got an Eagles display, and it just, I believe, if you set your radio station to 92 point, the light show is synced to that, and it's really something to see. I believe it is from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. every night, and that should be on display at least through the Super Bowl.
Little
Yeah,
fly, Eagles fly, never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
well, every Eagles fan should get out there to South Madison Street and check it out and get caught up in the hype. I'm sure kids would love it, especially. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome. In other news, I was driving around recently with Gabe, and I kind of noticed that there's things that were there 25 years ago are not the same. You drive on the White Horse Pike, and Castle Memorial Hospital is now just more of a medical center. And, with the drug rehab there, we don't have Whitehall. It's been almost 30 years, I think, since Whitehall closed. And there's just Hamilton's industry has really changed and where people are employed. And that's just a question that's been, kind of running through our minds. Where do Hamilton residents work? Are they working from home? Do they leave town? Do they still majority work in town? What do you guys think?
I mean, on my end, I'd say we certainly have less people working in town and living in town than we did 50 years ago, because you have to consider the clothing industry, the agricultural industry, the brewery. I mean, so many different businesses that employed people who lived here and worked here. You said the hospital, Gina. So, some of those things have been replaced in the sense of NJM and Kramer Beverage. But I don't know how many of those people live in town and work in town. So I'd have to think there are more commuters now than there used to be. What do you think, Joe?
I would agree with that. I mean, anybody who grew up in the 90s and played computer games learned that in order to have any sort of successful municipality, you need a judicious mix of both commercial and industrial. Otherwise, people are going to, you learn that through SimCity, by the way, but otherwise,
I
people.
wasn't sure if you meant that or Civilization. I wasn't sure what game you were
Oh no,
playing.
SimCity definitely. You need
Sorry.
industry, otherwise municipalities will suffer. And our industry, as you both have rightly pointed out, has been on the decline for the last 50 years or more. And most of those buildings have either been repurposed or have now been knocked down completely. So if you're looking for an industrial type job, yes, we have an industrial park, but we don't have nearly, I believe, the amount of positions available that we did 10, 20, 30 years ago. I think the people who work in town, the vast majority is either office or commercial in some way. But you're right. We are hurting. Yes, we have some. We have NJM, there's CTX infrastructure, we have some road companies, but to say that we have what we used to, no, it's gone, and I'd like to see it come back.
Yeah, I mean, what's promising is One White Horse Center, which was built to be a bank building for, headquarters for Empire, savings and loan, which is defunct. Another thing we lost, the banking industry. A lot of the banks, certainly the two local ones, First Federal and Empire, are gone. But that building now is on its way to being filled again. So that's an example where you have some promise with Teresi at the top of it, and you have Aon in that
Hmm.
building now. But we need more of that. I think that's what we're looking for. Like the Kessler
The
factory
white
building.
collar jobs.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the Kessler factory building, you're not going to get 500 seamstresses again.
No.
Forget it. That's gone. But what you did instead, for example, on Front Street, was you took the old National Garment or Tino factory and you turned it into Stockton. And that's the kind of thinking I think we need, at least from my standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, I think about the people who live in town and work in town, and I really don't want to see Hamilton become a bedroom community. There's something sad about that, having lived part of my childhood in a bedroom community in New York. There wasn't this great sense of community or a commitment to the town in a lot of ways. There, it was missing. And I think if you live and work in town because there's a business that is based there, you feel differently about it. We're lucky to have Kramer Beverage, who employs as many people as they do in our industrial park, and JM. And there's value to that. And it's a different level of mixes of jobs, but we're never going to be making pills again like we did at Whitehall or other medical, equipment or medical stuff there. And there's something sad about that. And we're never going to have clothing again.
No.
And again, there's something sad about that, and, we see agriculture going less and less with people. Farms are sold, they're consolidated, there's not as many small farms. So it really is changing. So how do you hold on to that? How does the municipal government attract and bring businesses in? I'm not positive. I think it's a question that our government has been wrestling with since we started working professionally, Gabe, in like the late 90s, and Joe, like 1997 when we started everything.
And
Yeah.
we have some great success stories, like we just said, the One White Horse building, the NJM building, the Kramer Beverage, CTX. I think you said, Joe.
Hmm.
Obviously, there are other industries, large ones that employ a lot of people that are based in Hamilton, most with a Hamilton owner.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the key, but I think it's certainly a factor that if there's local ownership, then I think there's more of a commitment to Hamilton. So you have to almost cultivate from within and hope that there's other people coming up in the next 25 years that want to build an industry here and grow their business here. I mean, but you said, Gina, bedroom community. Yeah, and that's it's not meant to be a complete indictment, but let's face it, a community is more vital when it has things flowing in and out of it every day. And the school district is great, and St. Joe Academy is great, but it's nowhere near enough. You need to have businesses, you need to have corporations that are here employing people who go to the businesses that are ancillary, meaning restaurants, services, retail. If you don't have that, you don't have a thriving community. And people say to me, "What do you mean?" I mean, look what happened, and only now is it starting to get back a little bit up off its feet in Camden when it lost all its
Yes.
industry.
Yeah. I
You're absolutely right.
I would also be interested to see. I mean, because we've thrown around the time frame now 50 years. Well, 50 years ago was what, 1975, and if I'm not mistaken, New Jersey really started to adopt its land use laws in 1971. I think. And then a couple of years after that, 1978, 1979, you had the Pinelands Commission come in. And I would be interested to see, because you go 50 years ago, 60 years ago, you had industry littered throughout the town. You had warehouses here, you had clothing manufacturers here, you had shoe people over here, you had this everywhere. And then zoning laws came in, and you had very specific industrial zones, agricultural zones, commercial zones, residential zones, and so forth. And now you had these non-conforming uses where, okay, yes, there used to be a warehouse here 50 years ago, but now this is residential. You can't put a warehouse here anymore. And so these zoning laws, while they make sense because you may not want to have a warehouse right next to you, now restricts where you can place industrial zones. And that also, I think, may have a lot to do with why we have, say, more commercial than we have industrial, especially with whatever restrictions we've been under from the Pinelands Commission.
Well, there's a trade off with that. And the trade off with that is we didn't become Washington Township
Right,
with housing either.
right.
So if you look at areas like, of course, we know the former farm, I guess, was at the corner of Old Forks Road and Third that became, Quilty Homes,
Mhm.
Blueberry Ridge,
Yeah.
and the density that was brought to bear there, and also obviously the Meadows on Pleasant Mills Road.
Yeah. Or if you look at,
That could have been that could. I was just going to make the point that could have been times 50
yeah, yeah,
in Hammonton.
yeah, and you're not wrong. Or if
And so there is a trade off because the only reason it didn't happen is because of the zoning that you're talking about,
right,
the Pinelands. Because if you had allowed that all to be residential instead of ag production, the reality is this: they would have sold, and they would have taken that money from developers without a doubt, which is what we're seeing on West End at this point
yeah,
with the townhomes. It happens very quickly when it does happen, and things change rapidly with density. Having said that, it also impacted, and I totally take your point, the commercial,
yeah,
because what happens is you couldn't just build a warehouse wherever in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I'm thinking again Walnut Street, where there's warehouses and different things there. But it's a push pull on that zoning thing because I think the town would have gone another way, which is you would have had probably 15,000 more people living here by now.
entirely possible.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
And wouldn't you like to see another Massarelli's, another Polyvel, another Universal Supply, just to have that mix of white collar and blue collar jobs that those three companies bring to the town? I think you need a balance in life. And,
Yeah.
I hope there's another generation of those businesses that prop up in the next 3 to 5 years in the town. There are spaces for them. There are places for those businesses to go.
Yeah, no, I'd
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely agree. You need a mix of white and blue collar jobs to appeal to everyone, not just a certain subset.
Yeah. I want to make sure we keep Hamilton interesting and vibrant and affordable for as many families as we can. I don't want to see people priced out or feel like they can't work in town, that there is no opportunity for them. And that's really important. And I think when people talk to us about the downtown and Hamilton's downtown success, one of the things I always said was we had a very functional downtown. And up until recently, we had a hardware store. We had, little places you can go in and out. We had four banks and we had the things that you need for your everyday life. And I think a little bit has been lost by losing the banks downtown, by not having a hardware store right on the main road in downtown. We used to have two. We had Penz's and we had what became Lincris, and
Yeah,
that was wonderful. And there's value to that, and having the florist downtown. These are all things you need in a functional downtown that is not just for tourism, that is for everyday people and businesses. So I
Well,
want to see if
on
we
that
could focus back on that.
point, I mean, obviously we're adaptive reuse has come in on the what we still call the Sears building. Do you consider the use that's coming in there as one of the uses that is more for? Do you put that in the category like a bank, which I'm talking about, of course, an urgent care center, where people will use it and come in and out of the downtown? Is that more toward what we've lost to you, or
Yeah, because
what's your feeling?
it's not just built for visit. It's not just for the geared towards visitors. It's something you need. It's a necessity more than it is a want. And people are
Sure.
going to go there because they have to go there.
Yeah.
Well, and
It's like a drugstore. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'll follow up on that with just one other thing that's been in people's top of mind lately. You hope that whatever goes in the bank, meaning what's is more in line, Gina, with what you're saying, which is let's put something in there that is going to be community oriented, meaning a business, if it is a business, that ties in more like the bank use was, which is daily use and something that can be integrated into the downtown and the town as a whole. I just hope that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hamilton has had a lot of banks, and I'm not going to say we didn't. I'm not even going to say we might not have even been a little overbanked. If you think about let's say, from Tilton Street to, I guess, Egg Harbor Road, we had at one point Minnetonka, which became Susquehanna, and then Truist. We had Capital Bank, we had Wells Fargo Bank, and we had Bank of America. All four of those are no longer in our downtown. Bank of America and Truist have locations on the Whitehorse Pike.
Hmm.
Capital Bank was acquired and got folded into, I guess, was that Ocean First Bank, I think. Is that who bought them, Gabe? If you remember, which
Ocean
bought,
First, I believe, bought Ocean City Home Bank,
Hmm.
and I thought they bought Capital as well.
and I guess Sun, because they're in the old Sun Bank location.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we have TD, which was Commerce. So, we still have what, four banks in town plus the Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union. So we're still doing well, but not as well as we were doing at one point. And there's something to be said for that. And it's if a business like a retail store needs change on a Saturday, they have to go out to the Pike probably to get it, or down 12th Street.
Yeah.
It's not as easy.
Yeah.
I guess my thought was, Joe, Gina, was that, though, not saying that I want Wells Fargo to be a bank again, because I don't, but I meant more along the lines of something that is in daily use, that is not a monument, that is not open 2 days a week.
Right.
If it's a restaurant, great. If it's something else, great. But don't you think it should be? It's such a prominent corner.
Oh,
It
it
should be
is.
Yeah.
vital.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't disagree with that at all. But speaking of banks, let's talk about our Oddcast poll of the week. How often do you guys use the ATM? Do you go every day, every few days? Never. I'll be honest. I go generally once a week, and I am pretty much a purist. I only go to a bank, and I try to go to my bank. And I don't know why. I feel weird getting money in a Wawa or anywhere else. I feel like I need to go to a bank. I'm showing my age. I freely admit it. How about you guys, Gabe, Joe?
Well,
Well, that's an easy answer from Gabe. Never ever does
Mhm.
he go to the ATM.
okay.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah.
not my thing.
Yeah. I used to tap Mac, showing my regionalism here. I used to tap Mac once a week, but that was back when I had direct deposit. I would go and I would take out my cash for the week. Now I do not have direct deposit, so when I go and cash my check, because I do like to go in, I do like to talk to the tellers, I like to have the whole experience. Now I
Because you're
take
110.
I am 110 years old, and I'm fine with that because that's who taps Mac. People who are 110. I don't think they've been called a Mac machine for 20, 30 years, but they're still the Mac machine.
Yeah.
But now I get my cash for the week, and if I have to tap Mac, then I've gone over what I've set for my budget, and there's a problem. So used to be once a week, now rarely, very rarely.
Yeah. I'll tell you what is true, whether I use it or not, which as we know, I don't. But I will never call it. Since Joe said that, it made me think of this. I will never call it the ATM machine. It's just
Yes, you do not like when you double up the M's there.
like,
You know,
don't double up the M's, will you? Come on,
yeah,
it's an
we
ATM.
understand. So, listeners, just let us know in the comments how often you go to the ATM. Never, once a week, rarely, every 3 days. I don't know. We're curious because this is something that we debate about. Am I weird because I only go to the bank? Let us know. Let us know because we're honestly curious. In other news, Egg Harbor City, speaking of commercial, is is designated part of its city as Brownsfield redevelopment area. And what that means is that there's a series of parcels in the Egg Harbor City that need environmental remediation, and the city is designating them that with the Brownsfield redevelopment area program. And this will help bring resources to bring about redevelopment, hopefully create jobs, and promote long-term economic growth. How do we feel about this approach? For these portions of the White Horse Pike and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City, is this going to fix Egg Harbor City, or is this a band-aid solution, or is this long-term thinking? What do we think?
I mean, when you look at it, Egg Harbor City is trying, just like Hammonton is trying, and all these other communities, to get its best hand, to use a kind of poker term, and they're using whatever tools they can to do it. So the tools are there to use the brownfield to remediate these properties and revitalize them and turn them into something that's a positive rateable for the town, and not just a positive rateable, but everything we just talked about, which is, you'll add jobs, you'll add people in the community. You don't want to see the community atrophy. So I mean, I give them credit for trying it. I think Egg Harbor City's got good bones and always has. I love Philadelphia Avenue. I think it's a great street, and it's got the pike right there. There's a lot of good things that can happen. It's just unfortunate because it never quite seems to click. And I don't want to say never, never, but it's been a long time since they've had a lot of positive growth in Egg Harbor City. So let's hope that this will be the silver bullet.
Yeah. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, by having them designated as such, that opens them up to applying for a lot of aid, like and I always get the letters wrong, the HDSRF, the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund, which is grant dollars that can actually help these sites. And I know that Hammonton has used such funds on a number of sites throughout the town. And if Egg Harbor is eligible for it, then I say absolutely all for it, particularly if these are sites that require remediation in order to be reutilized for another purpose. That's what the funds are there for, and I would much rather see them do that than just sit on sites that have been, and since they've been qualified as such, since they've been designated as such, that means that there is some sort of environmental commission there, environmental condition rather, that requires remediation. So instead of just letting that fester and ferment, absolutely use whatever resources that you can to clean these up and potentially turn them into ratables on the books once again.
Yeah, and Egg Harbor City is going to be working with the Atlantic County Economic Alliance and their president, Lauren Moore, and he is confident that by leveraging the Brownfield redevelopment area, they are cleaning up environmental hazards while creating the foundation for long-term prosperity in Egg Harbor City. And he said that in an article online. And I'm confident. I think the ACEA has done a lot of good work. And I think by working with Egg Harbor City, they can really bring some change about, which hopefully will trickle down into their downtown and into their residential areas. So we'd
And,
love to
and,
see that for our neighboring municipality.
and to make a point, I mean, the four corners at Philadelphia Avenue and, White Horse Pike,
Hmm.
Route 30, they have come a long way. I mean, they've tried to put some things together there with corporate partners and a restaurant, and I think, they're trying, and they have seen some successes, and hopefully they'll see more.
Fourth degree obstructing the administration of law, and third degree unlawful possession of narcotics. Under the terms of his plea agreement, Martinez is expected to be sentenced to an aggregate term of 10 years in New Jersey State Prison with 5 years of parole ineligibility under the Graves Act. During his guilty plea, Martinez also admitted that prior to being arrested and found with the Glock handgun, he had been involved in 2 separate incidents in Egg Harbor City where he brandished a pocket knife during a verbal argument and he obstructed police officers who were conducting a drug related investigation. After Martinez pled guilty, he was released over the state's objection pending sentencing by the judge. Sentencing is scheduled for March of this year. And this is all from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. For me, when I read this release from the prosecutor's office, I was really disappointed that this is coming out of Hammonton. Yes, the person was arrested a year ago and in Egg Harbor City, but I was still like, ugh, this is not the kind of news you want to hear coming out of your town from Hammonton. And I was disappointed to see that he was being released and not being held until sentencing. But that is just my opinion, and I think the state's too at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly since they
You know,
were weapons offenses.
11th situation happening again. Is this just a ginormous tragedy? What happened? And you can't help but watch and read everything that you can. And I know that I was gripped by what happened in DC and then what happened in Philly. How about you guys?
I think that you said September 11th. It's amazing to see the statistics on airline safety and air travel safety since September 11th, and how rare it is to have accidents or to have things like this happen. Having said that, I agree with you. Every time you have something happen with aviation, unfortunately, it's going to be attached to that day
Yeah.
because of what happened that day. Uh, You know, I'm not a frequent flyer. I don't know that I love to fly anymore. I used to fly all the time, in college and et cetera.
Let's go to
But
Boston
now,
for a weekend. Sure, we hopped on a
yeah,
plane and we did that.
yeah. I mean, it was a lot. And I was just having sort of the discussion maybe 2 months ago about, do you like to fly? Was somebody asked me, and I'm like, not that much. And 2 months later, when this stuff happens, you automatically think, do I really want to get on a plane? But I think, obviously it's still the safest form of travel. It's not just something people say. So my heart goes out to all the people who lost loved ones. And it's particularly both in DC, obviously, but also in Philly. You can't find a more sort of sad story than that a young lady gets cured or made from a terrible illness, and then she's on an air ambulance and it crashes. That's that's almost hard to fathom.
Yeah.
So your heart goes out to those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will agree with you that the entire nation, I think, for the last 24 years, that's been our trauma response. You hear something, anything happen with an airplane, that's the first thing you think of. And thankfully, that does not seem to be the case and hasn't seemed to be the case for 24 years, but that's automatically where your mind goes. And I'll agree. I used to enjoy flying. I don't, and I haven't for 24 years. I was on a layover waiting to come home 24 years ago when everything happened. So
Remember,
ever since then, I fly when necessary, but it's not like it's something that I relish. It
Yeah.
scares the hell out of me, truthfully. And I hate seeing things like this. I'm reserving any other comment until we find out exactly what it was that happened with both crashes, other than to say that it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible and heartbreaking.
in positive news, Governor Phil Murphy and First Lady Tammy Murphy welcomed wine enthusiasts and wine award winners to Drumthwacket for the Governor's Cup Awards. It's been a couple years since they've held the ceremony, and they had the honorees for 23 and 24. And I would just like to recognize Hamilton's own Tomasello Winery for receiving the Governor's Cup in 2023, and they got honored recently at Drumthwacket. They won for Best in Show and Best New Dessert Wine. So congratulations to Tomasello and also White Horse Winery, which is right over the border in Winslow Township. They won for Best New Jersey Rosé Wine for 2024. So congratulations to those two. Hammonton and the little area around Hammonton, we have quite a few wineries. We're really lucky, and it's great to see them being recognized by these awards and at the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to showcase that. Having been to Drumthwacket, I mean, it's when they throw a party up there, an event like that. It's a beautiful setting, and they do it right. And I think for the locals to go up there, it's an honor, and it's a nice honor for the town as well and the surrounding area. So the wineries are doing well. It's good to see it.
I have not been to Drumthwacket, but I have certainly consumed more than my
Oh,
share of
sorry,
local
Joe.
wine. So congratulations. We own it. We've earned it.
That's right.
And again, if we think about changing commercial landscape, that is agritourism. Is there a way to capitalize on that? More of it? I don't know. There's a lot of jobs that are created with winemaking and the tourism and the visitors that are associated with that. So we're lucky to have what we have, and we hope that our wineries continue to thrive in Hammonton. We love to see it. On the other end of the spectrum, we also have a upcoming food drive. This is something that is held every month. It's in association with different groups. It's held at the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Society Carnival Grounds. It's Hope Exists. It's with the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. It is a food distribution. It starts at 10 a.m. on, I believe that is on February 6th. You need to register to receive food. It's not complicated. It's very simple to register. And if you want to volunteer, just show up at 8:30 a.m. on Mount Carmel Lane. Joe, you've been there a couple of times, like different times for covering it, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good number of people that show up to get assistance, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. There's a very long line. The distribution is usually done up by the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Hall, and there's a very long line. So it certainly helps an awful lot of people in town and in the community. And it's been going on for a number of years, and I think it's an excellent resource for those who need it.
We're very lucky to be offering this in town and to help out people in our area. So love to see that. Again, that's every month. Look for information on social media about when the distributions are. And then on another note, and this one's I think a little closer to Gabe's heart, it's Little League registration season. Little League registration is online right now for baseball and softball. That ends February 28th. That's the last day you can register online, hammontonlittleleague.com. I know Gabe was involved with the Little League as a kid. Joe, did you play Little League or no?
Oh Lord, no, 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 I didn't.
I
Um,
didn't play. I didn't play much either.
yeah,
To
no,
be fair, I was involved in the press box, not so
Appropriate.
much.
Yeah, no, I
So yeah,
my sister played softball. Both of my sisters played softball, and I would go and I would watch their games. And the closest I got to playing was one time I was up on the fence so that I could see better because my vision has always been poor, and unfortunately, my vision was so poor that I did not see the foul ball heading right towards me, cracking me on the head and knocking me clear off the fence onto my keister. So yeah, didn't play at all. Matter of fact, after I accidentally hit myself in the eye with a baseball in sixth grade gym, I engineered it so
ouch.
that I never had to play baseball again. Yeah,
Well done.
thank you.
I don't want to see you hurt yourself. What's left to say except go out for Little League anyway, even though you might possibly get hit with the ball. But I will say, I think the oldest, obviously not just the oldest youth sport organization in Hammonton, but one of the oldest in the state. It's the oldest Little League in the state of New Jersey and the first Little League anywhere in the world outside of the state of Pennsylvania. And obviously, they won the Little League World Championship in 1949. So a lot to be proud over there at the Hammonton Little League and Hammonton Lake Park.
Makes one of the reasons it makes Hamilton a very special place to live. Also coming up is Galentine's Day. Now, Galentine's Day is a day to celebrate friendship. It's typically held February 13th. It's about the love between friends, generally women, because it's Galentine's. And, a lot of people feel like Valentine's Day is a commercial holiday. It's just about making money. And, is Galentine's Day the same thing? Is it just a cash grab as more people become disenchanted with Valentine's Day? I was going to pop out this year, but with a broken leg, I am not going anywhere right now. So I'm not going to go to Menino's, or I'm not going to Iliano's or any of those events, Rebel Salon, whoever's having them, not going this year because I'm stuck in the house. But as two guys, what do you think about Galentine's? And are you jealous that there isn't one for the guys?
What would it be for guys? Palentine's Day? How does that work?
Market that.
Valentine's
Yes.
Day?
Market that.
Valentine's Day?
Palentine's Day.
What
I like that.
Palentine's?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what I do. You go to a sports bar and watch some sports with some buds. I don't. I have nothing against women getting together and having their fun on Valentine's Day. I always, in my mind, thought it was single women, but maybe I'm hearing now that it's just any women. I still think it's commercial. I mean, you're going to make money off it. They're going to go out and drink and they're going to do things. I don't know if do they buy gifts, Gina, for each other on Valentine's Day or cards? What's involved?
I think you just go out and have a good time together. Different
Hmm.
places have different events. Maybe there's some sort of craft thing. Maybe there's like a little beauty makeover, a little shopping. I believe there's drinking involved, some sort of good food, maybe a tasty dessert. I don't know. But there's all different kinds of events. And
But the
part of me is
commercial
cynical,
though, well, okay, part of you is cynical.
but part of me is like, oh man, this would have been so much fun to do to break up a boring winter. You know what I mean? February is short, but feels very long. The January we just had was like 300 days long.
God,
And
it's
I
300,
don't
but it's
know, I'm
long.
feeling a little cabin feverish if I don't go anywhere. So
I
I'm just
said that
bitter this
earlier.
year.
Yeah.
Look it, look it. I say not you, obviously, because you're not going anywhere. But I say go out and have fun. What do you think, Joe? Everybody should just the girls go out. Valentine's Day, you gals get together and have a good time.
With the last couple of years that we've had, you know what? Any excuse to go out, any excuse to get together with your friends, absolutely. Do I think it's a cash grab? Sure, why not? But you know what? That's I don't blame them if you know that you can market for a specific event and people will come just to get out of the house, forget everything that's going on, spend some time together. By all means, do it. I don't blame you in the least bit. If you can go out and have a good time for whatever occasion it is that you want.
So why don't you guys, you and Gabe, start Palentine's for February 15th and start your own tradition?
Why does that have to be on different time? When's Valentine's Day?
Well, because if there's maybe some people who have kids and they would need to have their husband stay home with the kids.
They're saying you don't want to create any Palentine's widows, like football widows. You know, they
No,
talk about
I
that.
would like to make it so that, you have there's no competing things. And that way the restaurants get three hits. They get the
Hmm.
13th, the 14th, and the 15th.
No, don't. No, I would do it if we're going to build this thing the way it should be built. It should be Valentine's Day should be the weekend before Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is Valentine's Day, and you can go out either weekend. And then Valentine's Day is the weekend after, and then you really monetize the whole thing. You got half a month.
Well, with that, Gabe, I appreciate your insights, and I'm putting that in
Thank you.
quote marks. And let's turn to the Oddcast odds and ends. So I was researching the Garden State and like why we call New Jersey the Garden State. It's not just for blueberries, it's not just for tomatoes. Did you know that New Jersey grows the most eggplant of any state in the country?
I'm sure. Joe, you grew up on a farm. Did you ever know this?
I did not know that. I mean,
I was somewhat in the agricultural business as a kid, but that was it.
no,
I never knew.
when we used to grow vegetables, we would grow eggplant, and then even after we got out of the vegetable business, my father and grandfather had what they called their garden, but was actually an acre of vegetables, a lot of which was eggplant. But I had no idea that we were the largest producers of eggplant in the nation. That's something. It's absolutely something.
I wonder if it's cultural. I wonder if it's tied in with the Italian thing
Oh, could be.
because we all know eggplant parmesan growing up. You know, obviously delicious, and eggplant was on the table in
Hmm.
a variety of forms in my house.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is it cultural for New Jersey. Is it tied into the Italian American thing? I don't know. But how many pounds did you say was it? 26?
6 million pounds
That's insane.
of eggplant every year.
And that's
Like
that's
I'm just
that's a lot.
fascinated.
Yeah.
We're ahead of California, we're ahead of Florida, we're ahead of Georgia. Like, I
Wow.
and our state vegetable is the tomato, and should we reconsider this now? Should there be an effort to change it to the eggplant?
I think so.
What?
Absolutely.
What do you have against tomato? Is it because the tomato is really a fruit?
Well, there is that argument too. There is that
Whereas
argument.
the eggplant is a legit vegetable.
I believe so. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know. We
I
will
don't
have to
know.
ponder this. If anybody has any opinions about the eggplant, let us know.
If you're out there, eggplant farmers, send a crate of eggplant up to Drumthwacket. Let them
Lobby
know.
your case.
Lobby your case to be the new state fruit. I mean, state vegetable. Sorry. It's confused by the tomato.
And now it's for the best part of the show, at least in my opinion. It's time for the weather. Joe?
All right. Well, since you asked for it, here is the Oddcast Forecast according to the app on my smartphone. Wednesday, we are looking at a high of 37 and a low of 30. There is the possibility of snow or a wintry mix. On Thursday, we're looking at a high of 50. You look very sad about that. I don't have any control over that. It'll be all right because
Sorry.
by Thursday, it's going to be a high of 53. So whatever snow or wintry mix is going to be gone and a low of 37 with the possibility of rain. And then we're going back down on Friday with a high of 44 and a low of 28. But it should be sunny or mostly sunny all day. So anything that falls on Wednesday will very quickly disappear on Thursday and Friday as we continue experiencing these roller coaster temperatures.
Gotta love New Jersey in the winter.
For real.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. If you want to get in touch with us, Joe will tell you how to do that.
Absolutely. For more information or for sponsorship opportunities, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can call us at 609-444-6178, or you can email us at jerseyoddcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Have a great week, guys.